MMOs are great. Everyone loves them. And better still, there's a wide variety of MMOs to choose from, with each one catered for a particular clique in the MMO population. From your typical fantasy medieval enjoyer to the more degenerate side of the spectrum, your furry enjoyers.
If you don't think WoW is a furry game, you're delusional. It's absolutely a furry game.
Stop looking at me like that. And yet, there is one theme that no one has quite cracked, which is odd given the culture behind it and where it originates from. I am, of course, talking about the ever so unpopular Wild West themed MMOs. This theme has a dark past, and many players have been sold snake oil whilst the developers rode off into the sunset with their money. But I think I've found the first official, non-scam Wild West MMO, which Lazy Peon and Josh Strife Hayes haven't even covered off yet.
Why didn't you tell me this?
Josh Strife Hayes
Already did that.
He seemed so proud, I didn't want to bum you out.
So if you're the type of person who's interested in MMOs that no one's ever heard about and nobody watches, then you might just like my YouTube channel, which is also dead and unheard of. Like and subscribe. So the intro out the way, let's delve into the world of Cowboy MMOs. Yeehaw! With the success of Red Dead, it would seem like a no-brainer of an idea would be to make a Wild West themed MMO. You would just have to make Red Dead Redemption, but with MMORPG elements, right? So would you believe it, there has been attempts to make the first ever Wild West MMO. So in today's video, there are 3 titles I'll be covering off, all in various states of development. The first of which is Wild West Online, which at one point was very hotly anticipated by the MMO population. With a release date of May 2018, it was a brave choice considering in the same year Red Dead Redemption 2 would be releasing.
It's so dumb.
It's so dumb, it's brilliant.
No! It's just dumb!
It was indeed a questionable choice, and I'm sure it's nothing to do with the hype around Red Dead and them trying to boost their own sales. So what exactly was Wild West Online bringing to the table, you might be wondering? Well,
Wild West Online is an open-world Western-themed MMORPG sandbox game that...
It was indeed a sandbox MMORPG, and they wanted to make sure everyone knew it was indeed a MMO. I mean, in the first section, they labelled it as an MMO 4 times. Now, some of you might be wondering, why have you never heard of this game, let alone see anyone play it? Well, it's for good reason. After release, it received some very heavy criticism, like why does this game not work and where's all the features that you promised? And then what might be a MMO first, in the same year that this game released, it also closed down. Although technically it didn't close down, it just relaunched as a completely different title. Ladies and gentlemen, I give you your next Wild West themed MMO, which is of course New Frontier. Take it away, Josh.
New Frontier is an open-world survival MMO set in the American Wild West. It's free on Steam and is just under 9 gigabytes, so let's give it a play.
So what do you do when your game gets negative reviews, doesn't work, and no one wants to play it? Well, you just relaunch it with a different name, and you add zombies and a couple of aliens, because that makes sense.
We destroyed everything and we're starting over. What the heck? What the? No! Okay, I was wrong. They're like those weird, crazy bug things, dude. They're the alien looking like monster things I was talking about. It's a Wild West game with aliens. What is this?
Essentially, it's a relaunch of Wild West Online, and just like Wild West Online, it was a very questionable title. I won't outright call it a scam for legal reasons. However, both games are no longer listed on Steam, and their websites don't work, so you do the maths on this one. And just because I thought this was funny, the devs for this title don't even want to play their own game. So the 2 previous titles being scams and no longer playable, whilst also technically being the same game, I don't think they deserve to have the recognition for being the first Western themed MMO. Which leaves the door wide open for our next title, Outlaws of the Old West, which at the time of making this video is available to purchase on Steam, It is also labelled as a massively multiplayer survival MMO. It was also released back in 2019 by a reputable company who have made several games which you have likely heard of before. So the other two titles dead underwater, let's take a look at the only surviving Wild West MMO and see if it holds the answers as to why this genre or theme is so dead. I had high hopes for Outlaws of the Old West. In order to be crowned as the only existing Wild West themed MMO, it just had to load, and oh boy, we were off to a rough start. What you're seeing here is an error with BattleEye, which is the built-in anti-cheat system, and it's a common one that's been used on other games such as Destiny and Fortnite. I did try to find a workaround because mine just didn't seem to work, and unfortunately you can't play without it, especially on the official servers, otherwise you get kicked and banned, like so.
What will you learn? That your actions have consequences!
So to get around this issue, I had to dust off my old gaming laptop, uninstall anything that was irrelevant, and pray to the heavens above that being on Windows 10 would be enough to get this title to work. And it was, and all it cost me was my sanity. I'm just going to go out on a limb here and say that if your game is hard to install, it's likely that people won't play it.
That's disgusting. I can't believe you even said that on YouTube. You see, you just said that on YouTube.
And with that, was ready to start. For realsy this time. I don't use the word shocking very often, but I was shocked to see there's a lot of different servers to choose from, official and privately hosted ones. The only issue was, they all seemed pretty dead. You had a choice as well between PvE and PvP, both seemed just as unpopular as each other. So I opted for the server with the most people, XXX boosted server, with 4 out of 20 people playing. Because nothing screams MMO like a maximum of 20 players at a time. Before I could join the server, I needed to make a character. In typical fashion, I went for a name which would strike fear into my enemies. I give you Plob W Good People. You also get to choose an occupation, which to this day I have no idea what it does. But overall, the customization was pretty bare bones and basic, and nothing too exciting. I mean, you can't even choose your body type. Rip all those body type free enjoyers. And with the character creator out the way, I was ready to immerse myself in the world of Outlaws of the Old West. Why is there a fucking dinosaur in the Wild West? So there I was, in the big wide open world of the Wild West in my long johns, with nothing to my name and no idea what I was doing. So I started to do the survival things you're supposed to do, and I found some wood, which apparently provided enough experience to get me to rank 3. I guess they weren't lying when they said it was triple boosted. I then ran into a bear, and I tried my best not to disturb it, but the bear had other ideas. Whilst running away from the bear, I couldn't help but reminisce about what Joe Rogan said about bears.
Giant bear head clamped down on your dick and your asshole. And you're going, nah! And that's how you die.
And guess what? I didn't want to die, so I ran away. Thankfully, the bear decided it had enough and walked away.
What the dog doing?
My dick and arsehole were very much appreciative of not getting eaten today. I carried on exploring, found some bison, and also noticed the first signs of life on this server. And then there was more life, at which point I thought I actually managed to bump into another player. So I ran towards them in a non-threatening way. Well, so I thought. It was at this moment I learnt two things. Number one, that's an NPC, and number two, my health doesn't seem to drop even though I'm being rear-ended by a bison and shot in the face by whatever this is. I think it's safe to say when they said PvE server, they meant a peaceful PvE server. I was actually struggling to kill this bandit. For whatever reason, I just couldn't land a punch on them. Even with my infinite health, this was proven to be somewhat of a struggle. So I decided to craft a weapon with my limited resources. Unfortunately, I only had enough resources to craft a torch, which turns out is not a weapon. So I went back to plan A of trying to fist him to death. At this point I was pretty frustrated, so I just done the thing that came naturally to me. I ran away. The global chat became a bit more active, someone said hello to me, so I said hello back. And to think, my mum always said I wouldn't make any new friends unless I played outside. Well, guess what, mum? Fuck you. The leveling system was very straightforward. When you leveled up, you got skill points, and these skill points you can put into different attributes. I then crafted some tools because what's a survival game without your tools?
Dude, what's all that stuff you're grabbing?
Tools! Tools! Duct tape, zip ties, and gloves! I have to have my tools!
I then discovered what looked to be a camp, although I wasn't sure if it was a player made one or just a point of interest. Oh joy, some more NPCs. In a shocking discovery, it turns out my hatchet was enough to one-shot these NPCs.
I'm dying. Help me.
At this point I was feeling like Billy Big Balls, but at the same time I can't exactly die, so where's the challenge? I then went on to mine some rocks and then start to build a camp, and it was probably around about this time I was extremely bored and lonely. So I asked my newfound friends if there was a certain place on the map that players congregated, was there like a player hub? And it turns out there isn't. They did also say this was a fresh server, which meant two things. One, I was very unlikely to run into any mega structures created by other players anytime soon. And two, people apparently still play this game enough to create new servers. I had a couple more NPC encounters where I actually managed to find a gun. It certainly felt better trying to blast people in the face as opposed to running around trying to fist them. As someone who's played a lot of FPS games, the shooting felt a bit off if I'm being honest, like it wasn't the best form of gunplay, but maybe it was just that I hadn't leveled up my accuracy enough. I managed to find some vendors in the middle of nowhere. I don't understand what they were doing congregating by this rock, but hey, I'll take it. And one of them was actually selling mounts, so you bet your ass I bought myself a horse. You actually have the ability to level your horse up, so your horse can gain XP, which will give you skill points, which you can then use to make your horse go faster, or not run out of energy just as quick. So I set off on my newfound furry friend, trying to find the other players on this server. On my travels, I went through several different biomes. I also ran into different species of animals, and the views were actually pretty nice. To my amazement, I didn't find a single person. Although the server was only set to 20 people, this map could certainly hold 100 or more. What I probably should have done though, and it would have saved me a lot of time, is to actually check the player list to see if anyone's actually left playing, because it turns out they had all fucked off and I was the only one left on the server. Which is fine because I don't want to play with them anyway. I went back to the server list and I joined the only popular server I could see, which was Lone Wolves PvE. I was once again prompted to create a character and I stuck to the theme of looking homeless but not threatening. Overall, I think I've done a pretty good job, if I do say so myself. Yes, I won't stick out like a sore thumb. I wanted to be sure that this server had some life to it, so I introduced myself within the global chat. Nobody will ever suspect that I'm a dog. To my delight, there were other people on the server, and they all seemed pretty friendly. I thought I'd jump straight in and ask a hard question about the servers and why they seem so dead. Hi Plod. Who the fuck is Plod? I got a reply back of not sure. Hopefully they haven't played since release because that would be depressing. I can't think of anything worse than watching your favourite game die. I mean, I can. Drowning's probably pretty bad, right? But my point is, in terms of gaming, it's pretty bad. And I also asked them if they had any pro tips for like a day one guide. And the response was, basically, it's a chilled server, do what you want. The good news was that this one had normal settings, so I did lose health, I did lose thirst, and I did gain experience at a normal rate. So I've got a better feeling as to how progression worked in this game. With Sandbox titles, the players are the content. And I had the funny feeling that this server might actually have some content on it. so I asked which way to go to find civilization, just so I can get an idea of what people had built in the past. And with it being a PvE server, there's no real harm in me damaging their property, so they were very happy to give away some coordinates for me to go and check out. And that's exactly what I done. Whilst chasing a goat, I noticed something on the horizon, and it must have been pretty big because it made my game freeze. And there it was, the first signs of civilization, a railroad track. Oh yeah, and a big ruddy cougar. I was once again in a fight for my life, although this time I could actually die. I'll be honest, I kinda wish I picked the brown long johns at this point. And just like that, the beast was done. And I could now go play on the train tracks. So I picked the direction and I just followed the train tracks to see where they could take me. Surely there'll be civilization at the end of them. Two things crossed my mind. Number one, where's the train? And number two, what the fuck was that sound? In all seriousness though, it did get me wondering if the person who actually created this train track actually still played the game. I can imagine it took a lot of effort, and it gave me flashbacks to my younger self playing Minecraft and the amount of train tracks made on there to make life easier on realms which, you know, I've not logged on to in over 10-15 years. Because that's the thing, right? You never know when your last time will be logging into a game, and all that you can hope is that maybe you left in a good enough state that some cringe YouTuber won't log on, see your train track, and then try and make a deep, meaningful connection with the audience by playing Minecraft music in the background and using the train track as a metaphor in some cheesy monologue. Anyway, I reached what could only be described as a bear valley. It was just loads of statues of bears in a valley. Whilst following the train track, I did find a gun. It was attached to a dead bandit. And quite literally, out of thin air, a bear spawned in and tried to kill me. But I had a gun, so I didn't die. After what seemed like an eternity, I did arrive at what could be described as a train station. All that was missing was the actual train. I have to say, I have impeccable timing. I couldn't find a way to get inside the train, so I decided to travel Indian style. I also want you to keep in mind that I've been playing this game for a fair few hours, and this was the first bit of civilization I'd properly seen. This was the first man-made structure that I had encountered on any server. As I travelled by train, I got to see how open this world was and the possibilities there are to just build anywhere and everywhere. I came across another station, I came across a player-built bridge which was pretty impressive. I even got to fight some more bandits whilst the train stopped to refuel. I ended up having to travel by foot because the train just stopped moving, which allowed me to discover this old fishing cabin, which I assume at one point might have been popular given the amount of amenities and beds that were in this building. But the truth is, this game hasn't been popular in over 4 years. The last major player spike came in 2019. The more I explored this game, the sadder I felt for it, and eventually my adventure would come to an end as I got into a little bit of trouble whilst fighting a badger. No, the badger didn't kill me. The big hairy beast behind it did. And you know what typically happens to you when you die in a Sandbox MMO? You spawn miles and miles away from your dead body.
What's that, brother?
With nothing in your inventory. When I set out to make this video, the original plan was to review Wild West Online. I knew it had died, I didn't know the exact reason as to why, and I was hoping to find a private server somewhere. But instead, I ended up going down the rabbit hole and finding out about some shady practices. However, despite being a massive scam, it actually promised everything you could want from a Wild West themed MMO. It had a player hub. You could declare yourself a sheriff or an outlaw, It had weapon progression, it had crafting, it had housing, it even had VoIP. And when we look at Outlaws of the Old West, well, it's just a crafting game with a cowboy theme. It misses all the great MMO elements. I mean, sure, technically it is a MMO, it's just not a very good one. Funnily enough, this game has been in early access since 2019 and hasn't had an update since 2020, which might lead some people to consider this title to be a scam. Throughout this whole video, I'm sure a lot of you would have scratched your head and wondered why I don't consider Red Dead Redemption 2 to be a Wild West MMO. It certainly has a lot of elements which would make it one. It even has group raids and open world PvP to some extent. However, the internet sees it as more of a 32 player free roam lobby. If we start labelling the chaos of Red Dead as an MMO, we would have to say the same for GTA 5 Online, and that's a video for another day. But even if we say Red Dead is the ultimate Wild West MMO, it's worth mentioning that it's been abandoned by Rockstar and player numbers are nowhere near as good as GTA. So to answer the question as to why are Wild West themes so unpopular, honestly, I think it's due to the harshness of the theme. Maybe there's no room in the MMO society where your mount is the most important thing and you have to ride it from A to B, and there potentially is like open world PvP and people could be outlaws or deputies, and you can be as social as you want or antisocial. Hell, you can spend your days talking to your horse. And to cap it all off, you have to fight each other with guns. How silly. Sadly, I don't have a definitive answer, but all I can tell you is that I wish Red Dead Redemption 2 had a better online mode which was more MMO focused. And on that bombshell, I'm going to end the video there. But what are your thoughts? Do you think Wild West themed MMOs should be a thing and there should be more of them? Or do you think they're dead for a reason? Let me know in the comment section below. I do pretty much read every single comment, even the negative ones. And if you think I have actually missed off a Wild West themed MMO, let me know below. Maybe I'll go back and play it. As always, like and subscribe for more content. A big thank you to my Patreon and YouTube members. And I'll leave a couple of videos on the screen for you now, which you might enjoy. Hopefully, I'll catch you in the next one. Bye for now.